Hi, folks. This is Sarah Marshall, your operations architect, and this is episode 15 and the final episode of the leadership series. Um, the last episode, episode 14, we finished the new material that I was pushing out on this series, and in this episode, we're going to do a complete review of all of the major concepts that we've played with and we've explored during this series. I want to say, note that I have crossed through the 10-minute mark, and I'll acknowledge that many of my previous episodes would go 15 minutes, so one went 20 minutes, but this one is going to be a long one because we're hitting all the major aspects of the series. So buckle in and take the ride for this episode. So to start out with, we've looked at a lot of concepts with regards to leadership and leadership development, starting with our looking at how we develop ourselves and then how we engage and develop others in a leadership framework and engage others in that leadership framework. And then finally, we did discovery around applying leadership in complex environments, looking at different models, and also looking at how we support decision making, how we bring new leaders into an environment and set them up for success, and then finally using culture as a mechanism to do the heavy lifting for leadership. In this capstone episode, we are going to be looking at all the major concepts that we explored during this series, but we're going to focus specifically on where we started with, and that's developing leadership through through the currency of influence. So everything that we're discussing in leadership is discussing how we position ourselves to influence others and how we do it effectively given other people and given the circumstance we're in, how we do it effectively to inspire the others to the outcomes we are looking to as a group achieve. We'll just jump right into that first and basic foundation. We're starting with the foundation of influence, and we are going to continue to develop our capability to influence others in more and more sophisticated ways, starting first with ourselves and leading ourselves, influencing ourselves to take on and do the things that we want to accomplish, and we do that within our personal culture. Then we look to leading others and dealing with that in a communal culture, also acknowledging that each of those individuals have their personal culture as well. And then finally, we take that into leading into specific circumstance and the organizational cultures that we're dealing with in those circumstances, or in some cases, something much larger, like a state or a governmental national culture, etc. All those are part of it. And now you're seeing here that through the course of these discussions that we are developing a model for leadership in terms of how we influence others. So let's start with the foundation, influence, and talk about those 4 different ways we can influence people. The first one is coercive, and this isn't necessarily a negative thing. It's just saying that instead of inspiring or moving people along at their own pace, that you're giving them commands and strict rules with penalties attached if they don't perform. And there are some environments and some situations where this is completely appropriate. In the military, in any kind of military structure such as police, fire, there is a good reason to follow the rule of command and comply. However, the concept of compliant, or the concept of coercion, it's a low durability way of influencing others in that it diminishes rapidly when the pressure is off. If you're not being held under the rule of requirements, you will wander off in your own direction. The next one is guiding others, and that's teaching, that's coaching, that's supporting others to help them understand effective ways to get work done, how to achieve outcomes we're trying to achieve, etc. And guiding, it can be a powerful force it leaves each of the individuals with their own agency. So it's durable as long as the person with agency has chosen to take the guidance and move with the guidance. So you'll counsel somebody, they'll say, hey, it's a good idea to try these behaviors or take these actions, and then it becomes their own. So as long as it sits within the agency of that person and they have chosen to do that, guidance works well. Inspiring others is creating a vision, creating an inspirational concept, and inspiring others, perhaps charismatically or in other ways, to move in a particular direction. And this is durable only if the enthusiasm is maintained. So if you can continuously maintain enthusiasm for that vision, for that concept, that idea that are bringing people together, that will be durable. And finally, the last influence focus is in shared vision. It's a little different than inspiring in that you create a vision and then each person identifies their way of getting there in that vision and the piece that they're taking on, the role that they're playing. And that shared vision holds everybody together. And that one, as long as the vision is still live for the folks involved, that one will remain durable with the folks that are working towards that vision. They may each be working at it in their own separate way, but they are all sharing that vision and working towards that vision. So those are the 4 ways to influence people. Everything that we're going to go through in the next many slides and through the concepts we'll discuss are focused on delivering influence in one of these 4 ways. So back to our motto, we've talked about influence and the foundation of what we're trying to accomplish. Let's now talk about leading ourselves in our own personal culture. Any leader that is leading, whether you're leading yourself or others, are leading towards a purpose. There is a reason why we are moving in a direction. There are things that we are trying to accomplish. And so there is always a purpose associated with leadership. You're trying to get somewhere. And before I jump into the building blocks of growing your own particular abilities to pursue that purpose, I want to acknowledge that if you're in survival mode, you have very little to devote, very little ability to invest your time in building these building blocks. As you become self-empowered and you have communal acceptance, you have more ability to devote and invest your time in your ability to pursue a purpose. And if you're operating at your full potential, then you're going to have a lot to devote to it. So let's just acknowledge that the things I'm about to talk about, depending on where you are at any one moment, you are going to have a lot or a little to provide or to offer to invest into building these building blocks. The first one being agency. We've already talked about agency, and that's the ability to exert power and take actions on your own behalf. So you own whatever you're doing, and you're making decisions on your own behalf to go after it. It's an empowered actor mindset. You believe that you have the power to go after the things you're going after, and you're going to go after them yourself. That you know your own value in doing that, you know what you bring to the party and how best to provide that, and you're grounded in your own sense of safety. It's hard to get anything done if you don't feel safe. So if you feel safe in your environment, safe in your abilities, safe in your capacity to contribute to a cause, then you have your own agency. The second is focus, and I'm talking about what I'll call strategic focus. We're going to talk about tactical focus later, but strategic focus is looking at the horizon of the various things you can pay attention to, might want to have in your life, might want to investigate, be curious about, and deciding what things should be in and what things you just don't want in your life. Things that what do I want to be aware of in my life? What do I want to care? What do I care about? What do I want to pay particular attention to? And where am I going to take action? For the things that I'm going to take action on, those are the things I'm going to focus on most. So paring down the things you're going to have in your in the range of your horizon in terms of just attention to the things that are going on in life. There are things that you may want to have no attention towards, and there are things you're going to want a lot of attention towards. So choosing those things strategically first, so that you've narrowed yourself down to things you're going to focus on. And then finally, maintaining a high, healthy sense of curiosity, that you're open to new things, new understandings, that you're willing to accept that new information may change your position on things, that in learning new things, you are going to grow and develop yourself and change your worldview. And that curiosity means that you need to suspend judgments and opinions about things. And I've said they're lazy and they kill learning. And I mean that in terms of, if you make a judgment, you are no longer curious. And so you are no longer able to take in new information and let that weigh as part of what you're thinking. So you want to be very careful about what you do judge, and you leave on the table so that you're off looking at other things you can be curious about. You want to adopt a beginner's mind. In other words, every time you do something, no matter whether you've done it once or a million times, you want to walk into it as if it's the first time you're doing it. And if you do that, you will always learn something new, and you won't make the mistakes of overlooking things. And then you want to provide empathy. Empathy being that you can walk in others' shoes, that you understand their perspective better, so that you can take in what they are telling you, understanding it from their perspective. You may not agree with it, you may not want to adopt it, but you can at least understand from their side what that means. And finally, you want to encourage oppositional viewpoints. You want to develop constructive conflict in your life, and that constructive conflict has opposing views coming to the table, laying their perspective on the table, and then you take what you can from it from both sides. And if you do all of that, then the last thing you're building out is your confidence. And confidence is critical because you can have all these other things, agency, focus, curiosity, but if you don't have confidence, you're going to have a hard time executing. So you really want to build up your confidence through building up these other building blocks of capability. And we all know people that have unearned confidence, that believe they are capable of more than they really are because they've never run into a really difficult situation, or they have some lubrication in their life that they don't understand is different from what other people have. So there is that piece as well. You want to make sure that you're building the strong foundation and building your confidence on your accomplishments, your experience, your knowledge, your skills, and use that confidence to execute on the pursuit of your purpose. So that confidence is building a self-belief, and ideally incrementally, realistically dealing with whatever comes your way. So it doesn't mean you're going to be able to deal with everything, because you won't be skilled or have capabilities to deal with everything, but you can deal with everything from the perspective that you know how to deal with it and work with the skills and capabilities that you have. So you want to suspend your self-critique. You want to lean heavily on what you do know. So tackle things with what you do know, and the things that you don't know, generalize from other experiences, learn from your mistakes, and build a support team around you to give you guidance and counsel. So, and those people can be coaches, mentors, consultants, experts, the team that you're working with, etc. And if you have all that in place, even if it's a new thing that you've never had to deal with before, you can still navigate through it, even if that's one of those things. If the pilot lands a plane, no matter how badly the plane has landed, so it's a good thing. Oftentimes you will be dealing with things that you won't land perfectly, but you will land good enough to survive another day. All right, now that we've looked at the basic building blocks of developing ourselves, we want to look at some elevating practices. And these elevating practices, this one slide encompasses the ideas from 3 episodes, episode 4, 5, and 6. So it is packed in a lot, but these elevating practices are aspirational. In other words, You won't be able to do all of these things all of the way, all of the time. They are very difficult practices, and they're designed to be that way to really grow your capabilities. So in trying these out, don't get frustrated if you have difficulty doing them. That's part of the deal. They are just they are designed to really elevate your capabilities, but they are very demanding in their approach. So the first one is unconditional commitments. Unconditional commitments means that you're committed to something no matter what the circumstance and no matter who else is committed to that particular thing that you want to do. So there are probably going to be very few things in your life that you're unconditionally committed to, and you are going to turn yourself inside out to make sure it happens. But this is where the juice is. If you're able to find a few things that you're unconditionally committed to, and you're committed to it no matter what evolves in the world or who supports you, you're going to go do this thing. Then you're going to develop some capabilities within yourself that you didn't know that you had. Intense presence. This means focusing completely on the moment that you're in, giving your everything that you have to that moment, so that you can, so that everything else falls away, past, future, etc. And you're giving yourself completely to that moment, so that you can move forward anything that you were focused on and moving in that moment. This is often the sense of being that you might have when you're practicing intense presence is flow. Things just move. They just, because you're so in the moment, things just move and they go in a direction, and you can flow with that direction and you can get a lot done. Extreme awareness. This is not a corollary, but akin to intense presence, in that you're not only present to the very thing that you're focused on, but you're extremely aware of everything around you and how it impacts that, so that you have both an intense sense of the thing that you're focused on, an intense sense of the context around you. And then there's tactical focus. So we talked about strategic focus previously, where you're cutting out the big things that you don't want to deal with at all, focusing on the things that are most important to you. Tactical focus is, what are you doing day to day? How are you? What things are you trying to get done? Are you holding yourself to account to it? Do you have a list of things that you're going to get done today? Did you get it all done? Why or why not? What do you need to do differently to make them better? And then finally, surrendering to our own growth and development. So what this means is, as a leader, you are trying to make yourself into the thing that has you be successful, meets those unconditional commitments, meets the big objectives in your life. And we often, I don't know about you, but for me, I've often gone into things not fully equipped to deliver on the outcomes that I've been focused on. This is about surrendering to the changes I needed to make in myself in order to be the person I needed to be to deliver that outcome. So that willingness to not be positional or right, but look at the things that aren't working in your life and shifting those things so that you are a better leader. So those are elevating practices. If you practice these, and I highly recommend going back and looking at the details of these in the various episodes, but this is a very powerful way to develop yourself as a person and take yourself to the next level. Okay, where are we in our influence model? We've now focused on both the foundation of what influence is and developing ourselves and leading ourselves. Now let's turn to leading others. And in this case, like I said, there is always an outcome we're trying to pursue, so we start with the vision of what you're trying to accomplish as a leader. You want to be able to know this cold, you want to know it for yourself, you want to be able to say it to others in an elevator, as they call it, an elevator pitch. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what my team is doing. This is what my company is trying to do. This is what the nation is trying to accomplish in this arena. You want to have a clear vision. Once you have a clear vision, then the next thing that you're dealing with is emotional. Well, I'm sorry. For some reason, I lost the little title line there, but this is emotional intelligence. And the idea behind emotional intelligence is that you have a real sense of being able to read the room, where people are, where they're at, what they're trying to accomplish, what's holding them back, and that you can really understand their world and where they're coming from. And these are all, by the way, this first slide of leadership qualities is all about recruiting people into your cause and motivating them. So the second thing besides emotional intelligence is to have deep empathy. In other words, when I say empathy, that you're able to step in their shoes and understand why they operate the way they do, what's important to them, what upsets them, what they need to do great work, what they need in order to get rest and recovery, and be able to understand the person from their point of view, not your point of view. And then communications, being able to effectively communicate what you're trying to accomplish in a clear way that has people engage and be inspired to move forward with you. And the final one for recruiting and motivating others in a direction is delegation. That once you have people engaged, that you're able to hand things off and let them in their agency deal with that thing, and trusting that they will deal with it well. So these are the qualities that you want to develop to recruit and motivate others. The ones that you want to sustain that effort and keep things moving forward in a trajectory towards success are integrity, that you do what you say and you say what you do. It's not whether you're good or bad, it's about whether people trust you. This is all about developing trust and credibility. So if people trust that what you're saying is what you mean, that your behaviors are going to operate in parallel with what you're saying, then you're going to have integrity. They may agree or disagree with you, but they're going to trust you. Accountability, that you hold the team and you hold yourself to account for the commitments they've made. If somebody says they're going to deliver something to me within a week, in a week and a day, I'm going to come back to them and say, hey, what happened to this thing? That we hold each other to account. And it's especially important to hold yourself to account. I said I was going to do X. I actually did Y. Here's how I'm going to improve that. This helps folks to trust that they understand where you're coming from and they can count on you to meet your commitments. Decision making is critical. You have to operate on a foundation, and we'll get into this in a future slide. You need to operate in a foundation of understanding of the world around you, and that understanding has to continuously be refreshed. So you're operating on the most current information about the context of the environment you're in and what you're trying to accomplish, and that you can quickly adapt to changes. So what do they say? Every plan dies at the moment that you start executing on it. It's important to build plans and give people milestones, things that we're trying to direct, but it's important also to understand that the real world impacts everything that you're trying to do. So as soon as a shift happens, something evolves, a new trend emerges, you need to be able to adjust in order to address that particular thing. And finally, resilience. Nothing we try to accomplish in life is easy, so you have to find a way to rest, recover, remain resilient, and be able to move on and continue to develop your own golden goose to deliver the golden eggs, as Stephen Covey would say. So these are the qualities you want to develop in order to maintain an effort in the long run. All right, decision making. I said we were going to talk about that a little bit more. The idea is that any leader has a lot of things in their mind that they're trying to balance and manage. For a senior executive in a company, let's say, you're going to have all sorts of things. So how is the organization performing? What are the market trends? How are customers feeling about us? What is the disposition of our organizational health? What's our financial health? How are our partners aligned? What is the regulatory landscape? Having a current understanding of all these things is super tricky. So you have to develop a way to continuously import new information and maintain your personal SWOT analysis of the world around you, the context around you, so that when you're making decisions, that you have a fresh and current level of information on all those things. And in decision-making foundation, part 1 and 2, I discuss various ways that I've used in the past to do this. You're also developing a leadership cadre. You're bringing new leaders in. Any leader needs to develop new leaders because you always need new and fresh folks leading pieces so that you can continuously maintain your trajectory towards success. There are barriers to that, though. The first one is a cultural barrier. Does the leader that you're looking at fit in the culture? Can they champion that culture? Will they stand up and drive that culture forward with you? Second is, are they subject matter experts? Do they have enough subject matter expertise in order to be an effective leader in that arena? And then finally, you need to develop that leadership capabilities themselves. And we've just talked about the various qualities that we need to have, and you want to be able to develop those in yourself and other leaders as well. And if you get all those three things knocked out really effectively in your recruiting and hiring process, or your capturing of leaders in the organization and acquiring them, then you can have effective organizational performance, because each one will take on the pieces and parts that they need to in order to drive towards our big objectives. All right, let's talk about that last piece. We've now talked about leading ourselves, leading others and their communal culture. Now let's talk about applying leadership in complex environments and the various ways we can do that. The first one is applying leadership to circumstance. We really want to be able to look at what the circumstance is and how to do it. We talked about the many different kinds of ways to lead, from very hierarchical, objective-focused, controls-focused leadership to very laissez-faire, let the people do what they want to do. There is a lot of different ways, and I went through, I believe, 9 different models for leadership that can be applied in different kinds of environments. You want to choose the right model, and I would highly recommend going through episode 11 and 12 to look at those leadership models to see which ones might be the best for you. But selecting the right, either right model or right set of models for the complex situation that you're in is critical, making sure that they work well together. And if you do all that, you also want to use culture to leverage your ability to lead when you're in absence. So culture is a way for you to set up values, norms, expectations on behavior and actions that have people work well together. Each person has several layers of beliefs, including their spiritual beliefs for why they're here and what their place is in the universe. For communal beliefs, how I fit in my community and what's important to that community. And vocational beliefs, what makes me good at my particular vocation, and what are the important aspects of that vocation in order to be able to be effective in doing that. And the greatest challenge we have when we're developing an organizational culture is building a culture that will support the folks we bring in, understanding that their individual cultures may be a little different than the organizational culture, but they are a fit for our organizational culture. And that addresses the whole sense of the model, other than how to leverage culture in a more institutionalized way by building infrastructure that supports it. And there's 3 aspects of infrastructure when we're building culture: governance, which is the policies and practices that we use to manage ourselves within that culture; accelerators, the things when we need to shift our culture or really entrench our culture that help to catalyze that the culture that we want to have. And that in micro sense in an organization would be processes and technical infrastructure, etc. And in government, it would be institutions such as health institutions and political institutions and legal institutions. And then finally, communications. And this is the active part of driving culture, which is either you're trying to entrench the culture you have, or you're trying to shift your culture to a new place, this set of education and communications and leaders saying what's important to them is the way you do that. So those are the three aspects of infrastructure that either entrench or change culture. And now we've built out an entire model for leadership, starting with the foundation of influence. We've looked at a number of ways to lead ourselves. We've looked at accelerating practices to really help you develop yourself and grow quickly as a leader. We've looked at our personal culture, our vocation, our community, our spiritual beliefs. We've looked at leading others through developing our qualities and capabilities in emotional intelligence, empathy, communications, delegation, and vision to bring people in, and integrity, accountability, decision-making, adaptability, and resilience to keep things moving to achieve success. And all that lives within a community's culture, which will include vocational beliefs within the community, the communal beliefs that keep the community together, and spiritual practices and beliefs of that community. And then finally, leading in specific circumstance. We've talked about the various 9 models that help us to focus our leadership in specific circumstance, from charismatic model, participative, democratic model, servant, laissez-faire, transactional, authoritative, hierarchical, situational, and transformational model. All are perfectly appropriate in given circumstance. And within the organization, we have our organization's missions and values, and our role objectives and values as well. So that is the 3-tiered model of developing our influence capability as leaders. Use it well. It has worked well for me in the course of my career. I highly recommend using this as a way to develop yourself in terms of first leading yourself, and then focus on the qualities that you need to lead others and the frameworks you need to use in order to lead in specific circumstance. And also, let's not forget about, we have those cultural change levers, governance, communications, and accelerators to help either entrench a culture or shift the culture to a new culture. And that's the model. This is the influence model as it's been built out in the previous 14 episodes. You've now in the Capstone seen it all. Just remember that leadership is underwritten by the currency of influence. And influence is what you're trying to do regardless of your leadership style and how you're trying to apply it. You're trying to inspire others to the outcomes that we all want to achieve. And developing those leadership capabilities, we start out by influencing ourselves and getting ourselves focused in a direction, influencing others with the set of qualities that we develop, and then influencing complex circumstances through the frameworks that we use to do that. This is a lifelong journey. So influence mastery never ends. It's something that you can work on forever and never run out of things to develop and be able to do. The things that we provided in this series are a series of tools and concepts to help you deliver your own and be on your own lifelong leadership journey. If you want to see more information about this leadership journey, you can go to my blog at www.operations-architect.com. As always, love your feedback. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you very much for sticking with me through this leadership series.